Ketogenic Diet. This eating plan drastically reduces carbohydrate intake and replaces it with fat, pushing the body into a metabolic state called ketosis, where it burns fat for fuel instead of glucose. Typical meals center around meat, eggs, cheese, and healthy oils, while foods like bread, pasta, and sugar are almost entirely avoided. Though it gained mainstream popularity in the 21st century for weight loss, the diet actually originated in the 1920s as a treatment for epilepsy in children who didn't respond well to medication. Intermittent fasting. Rather than focusing on what you eat, this approach focuses on when you eat, cycling between periods of eating and periods of fasting. A common version restricts eating to an 8-hour window each day, though longer fasting protocols also exist. Research suggests it may help regulate insulin levels and support cellular repair processes, and versions of fasting have been practiced for religious and cultural reasons long before it became a modern wellness trend. Mediterranean diet. Modeled after the traditional eating habits of countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea, this diet emphasizes vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, fish, and moderate amounts of wine. Red meat and processed foods are eaten sparingly, if at all. It's consistently ranked by nutrition experts as one of the healthiest diets in the world, largely because decades of research have linked it to lower rates of heart disease and longer life expectancy in the regions where it's traditionally practiced. Vegan diet. This diet eliminates all animal products entirely, including meat, dairy, eggs, and even honey, relying instead on fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, and plant-based proteins. Beyond health considerations, many people adopt this diet for ethical reasons related to animal welfare or environmental concerns. The term itself was coined in 1944 by Donald Watson, who co-founded the Vegan Society in England to distinguish it from vegetarianism, which still allows dairy and eggs. Vegetarian diet. This diet excludes meat, poultry, and fish, but unlike veganism, it still allows dairy products and eggs in most of its common forms. Some variations exist, such as pescatarian, which permits fish, or lacto-vegetarian, which allows dairy but not eggs. Vegetarianism has ancient roots, with historical evidence showing it was practiced in India and parts of the Mediterranean thousands of years ago, often tied to religious or philosophical beliefs about nonviolence. Paleo Diet. Based on the idea of eating like early humans did before the rise of agriculture, this diet focuses on meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds, while avoiding grains, dairy, and processed sugar. The reasoning behind it suggests that the human body hasn't fully adapted to modern farming-based foods introduced only a few thousand years ago. It was popularized in the early 2000s, though critics point out that actual prehistoric diets varied enormously, depending on region and available resources. Low-Carb Diet. This approach reduces carbohydrate intake, without necessarily reaching the extreme fat ratios of a ketogenic diet, allowing more flexibility in food choices. It typically limits foods like bread, rice, and sugary snacks, while emphasizing protein and vegetables. Because lower carbohydrate intake can reduce water retention tied to glycogen storage, people often notice rapid initial weight loss, which is part of why the approach became widely popular, starting in the 1970s with diets like Atkins. DASH diet, short for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. This eating plan was specifically designed by medical researchers to help lower blood pressure. It emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins, while significantly limiting sodium, red meat, and added sugars. Unlike many diets that emerged from popular culture, this one came directly from clinical studies funded by the National Institutes of Health in the 1990s, and it's still frequently recommended by doctors today. Gluten-Free Diet. This diet eliminates gluten, a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, and it's essential for people with celiac disease, an autoimmune condition where gluten damages the small intestine. Others follow it due to gluten sensitivity, experiencing bloating or discomfort without the autoimmune response. In recent years, it's also been adopted by people without any medical need, driven partly by a broader wellness trend, even though research shows no benefit for those who aren't actually sensitive to gluten. Whole30 Diet. This is a strict 30-day elimination program that removes sugar, alcohol, grains, dairy, and legumes, with the goal of resetting eating habits and identifying food sensitivities. Unlike many long-term diets, it's designed to be temporary, followed by slowly reintroducing food groups one at a time to observe how the body reacts. It was created in 2009 by a husband and wife team of sports nutritionists, originally intended for athletes, before spreading into mainstream wellness culture. Raw food diet. This diet consists of foods that haven't been heated above a certain temperature, typically around 104 to 118 degrees Fahrenheit, based on the belief that cooking destroys important enzymes and nutrients. Followers rely heavily on fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and sprouted grains, often using dehydrators instead of ovens. While some nutrients, like vitamin C, are indeed better preserved raw, cooking actually increases the availability of other nutrients, like the antioxidant lycopene found in tomatoes, making this diet a mix of genuine benefits and oversimplified claims. Flexitarian diet. This is essentially a flexible form of vegetarianism, encouraging mostly plant-based eating while still allowing occasional meat or fish. It was designed as a more sustainable, less restrictive alternative for people who want the health benefits of a plant-focused diet without fully giving up animal products. The term was popularized in a 2009 book by dietitian Dawn Jackson Blattner, and it's since become one of the most practical, widely adopted eating patterns for people easing into plant-based eating. Carnivore Diet. This is one of the most extreme modern diets, consisting almost entirely of animal products like meat, fish, and eggs, while eliminating all plant foods, including vegetables and fruit. Proponents claim it can reduce inflammation and simplify digestion, though mainstream nutrition science remains skeptical due to the complete absence of fiber and certain plant-based nutrients. It gained significant online attention in the late 2010s, largely driven by anecdotal testimonials shared on social media rather than large-scale clinical research. Low-FODMAP Diet. Designed specifically for people with irritable bowel syndrome, this diet temporarily removes fermentable carbohydrates that are poorly absorbed in the small intestine, found in foods like onions, garlic, wheat, and certain fruits. These compounds can draw water into the intestine and ferment quickly, often triggering bloating and discomfort in sensitive individuals. Developed by researchers at Monash University in Australia in the late 2000s, it's typically followed short-term under medical guidance before gradually reintroducing foods to identify specific triggers. Zone Diet. This diet aims to balance meals into a specific ratio of 40% carbohydrates, 30% protein, and 30% fat, with the goal of controlling insulin levels and reducing inflammation in the body. Unlike calorie-focused diets, it emphasizes the balance and timing of macronutrients at every meal rather than simply cutting overall intake. It was introduced in 1995 by biochemist Barry Sears, who argued that this precise ratio could put the body into an optimal metabolic zone for fat burning and mental clarity. Blood type diet. This diet claims that people should eat according to their ABO blood type, suggesting, for example, that type O individuals thrive on high-protein diets, while type A individuals do better with more plant-based eating. It was introduced in the 1996 book Eat Right for Your Type by naturopath Peter D'Adamo, based on the idea that blood type influenced digestion through ancestral history. Despite its popularity, multiple scientific studies have found no evidence linking blood type to how the body processes different foods, making it one of the more controversial diets on this list.